Well, hello.
Hello, everybody.
This is Kevin Martin, and
Chris Adshade.
this is the Power of Two for NGH 2021 already, right?
Yes, 2021
convention.
convention. We welcome you here. We're glad that you could attend, and we have a presentation for you.
Yes, and in case you haven't noticed yet, this is virtual and pre-recorded because we're not in the conference center. They told us about background noise. We have no trucks or anything, but it sounds like we have a few birds.
A few birds in the background. You never know what could happen. So we are just going to go with it.
Let's go with it.
Because usually when we get together and we present, you never know what could happen, and we just wing it and we go with it. So that's what you get.
Yeah. Now, Chris, tell them a little bit about yourself. You've been a member of NGH since it started, weren't you?
Well, not quite that long, but I have been a hypnotherapist or a hypnotist or a consulting hypnotist, whatever label you want to use, for about 20 years. Actually, it's a little longer than that, but I try not to say that because then I feel old. But it's been a
you
wonderful.
Should feel old.
I know, it's hard to believe it's been that long, but it's been an amazing journey. And seeing how the whole field of hypnosis has changed over the years. And, back in the day, it was very rigid in what you did. Now it's flexible. And I guess, the whole reason why we are doing our presentation is to give you a totally different aspect of what not only one hypnotist, but two can do together.
Two. Yeah, that's right. And that kind of identifies me as the second hypnotist. Yes, I am a hypnotist. I've been a hypnotist for about 15 years. Difference between Chris and I is Chris was a hypnotist before me, and I didn't become a hypnotist. I got trained in hypnosis as well as NLP, and I really adopted the NLP, and I didn't adopt the hypnosis for a couple of years. It's like, okay, even though I'm trained in it, I really wasn't sure about it. I saw people like this in there, and no.
Now, what about, for the people who might not know what NLP is, Kevin, could you explain what NLP actually stands for and what it can do?
Thank you for pointing that out, Chris. I appreciate that. NLP is known as neuro-linguistic programming, and basically those three terms: neuro, your nervous system, your neurology; linguistic is language. But here it's not just spoken word; it's also internal communications, which is very important. And in programming is basically how we're programmed. As hypnotists, we're looking to fine-tune that programming all the time through our suggestions and the different processes we use. NLP does it outside of the traditional induction in trance and all that. It does it just through communication. Basically, I'll tell a story with somebody. I'll just say, okay, I want you to imagine this, or I want you to see where in your body this is, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite different. And so I adopted that early on, and I wasn't sure about the hypnosis, even though I got trained. And when I got trained, I was laid out flat across two chairs. Can you imagine that, Chris?
That would have been good to see.
Yeah. I didn't fall. But then again, nobody
I wouldn't have climbed up on top and stood up there like, ta-da!
I was just going to say, nobody does that anymore, and they didn't do it. Thank God they didn't do it, but that's really how hypnotists used to demo that back in the day, right? Back in the day. So yeah, it took me a little while to really absorb what the difference is between NLP and hypnosis, and what hypnosis really was. And now, I am using hypnosis with all my clients. I use both, and so there's always a hypnotic part. And there's that other piece of hypnosis, right? This is something you got trained in a long time ago.
Well, it's interesting because compared to your background, where you learned NLP first, and I had learned hypnosis first. And way back, and some people might remember this, is that there was a distinction between hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And hypnosis was just using the process of hypnosis, a lot of direct suggestion and things. And hypnotherapy was really kind of more for people who had another therapy background. For instance, myself being a social worker, and you learned other techniques. And it was interesting because later down the road, I had heard, a lot about this NLP stuff, and I wasn't sure, like, okay, let's check this out. And I went through a formal NLP training, and the interesting thing was a lot of it I had learned under the whole umbrella of hypnotherapy. So it's changed names, and it's a lot of techniques and tools that you can use with clients. And between that and the traditional hypnosis, so now it just seems and the reason why I said hypnosis, hypnotherapy, consulting hypnotist, the labels have changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times now in the work that I do is I overlap, whether I plan on it or not. It's interesting because when I had met Kevin, I had taken a group through a process, and it was funny because I had incorporated a lot of hypnosis and NLP language patterns into the process and really didn't even think about it. And it wasn't until you had made the comment like, wow, you incorporated a lot of language patterns there. And I was like, really? I think it just kind of has gotten to be automatic over time, which I think is wonderful for hypnotists. Doesn't matter whether you're a newbie in the field or whether you're a veteran. There's a lot of room for growth. And I think one of the nice thing about these seminars and workshops that are being taught with the guilds is it really allows the hypnotist to learn different techniques and different therapies and not be kind of stuck in the routine of, well, this is how I learned it and this is how I'm going to continue to learn and use it with clients. It's to really be flexible. And I know between the two of us, seeing how you approach clients and different topics within hypnosis has gotten me to kind of, view things differently. And that's where this whole workshop came about, is because our backgrounds kind of come about from different angles or opposite between NLP and hypnosis. Yet we've had amazing times over the years, just either, throwing ideas back and forth or actually just doing workshops together. So it's been amazing.
Yeah. And if you're new to hypnosis, don't worry about the NLP thing right away. Don't worry about it. But the fact is, the reason why Chris mentioned it is because we really came to approach these things differently. We came to do different, come from different backgrounds. Like you said, I was out of corporate, and Chris, you're a social worker.
Yep.
And you also work in education and stuff like that. So we have different ways and different things and different approaches. But the thing is, if you can get together, and this is something I've always promoted, is getting together. The thing that I love to push is really to get together with your colleagues and discuss different things. And you'll find that you have different approaches and you do things differently. And you'll be able to collaborate, you'll be able to meld, you'll be able to get ideas. Even if you're not going to do hypnosis with your colleagues, you're going to be able to get ideas from them, and they'll get ideas from you.
Well, you know what, Kevin? What's interesting is since the time that I met you, one of the things that when I'm describing Kevin to people, I'm always saying that, number one, he is probably the most positive person that I know.
No, I'm not.
Oh, it sounded good. No, he really is, because he really approaches things, with a positive aspect. But the other thing that really, when I think of Kevin, is he's a people person. He meets so many people, and depending on what venue that he's at, whether it's a corporate thing, networking, his big thing is networking, and he's met so many different people, and just to see how him as a person and how he works has changed over the years is really because of the fact that he meets so many different people, and he's really about bringing people in, and that's one of the things that I think is great, because in the field of hypnosis, depending on where you work, you might be like the lone hypnotist in the whole area, and sometimes you kind of get into a rut, or you wonder, like, am I doing things right or whatever. And Kevin's big thing is networking and bringing people together, whether it's in person or whether it's online, and sharing ideas. And that's really kind of where our friendship came about, and how we're constantly, sometimes right now, as we record this, we have not seen each other in person for 8 months. Which is amazing, because we try to get together.
Which is good. I mean, it is amazing. You're absolutely right.
He's like, thank goodness. But when we get together, it's like we're constantly, and it doesn't even have to be talking about hypnosis. We could be talking about, our families and things like that. And it's just sharing of ideas. And then it tends to come back to, the whole field of hypnosis. Like I'm lucky enough to know his family, and they're all wonderful, and at some point we might be able to bring his wife out here, and for an induction. She doesn't know it yet, but we're usually kind of go with the flow, so we might just be like, hey, come on out, and boom, have a seat in the chair, and whoever else we might be able to snag at the moment. But really, it's just it shows how flexible we have been, but also too how we toss ideas around, and really we'll think about something like, hey, what do you think? Kevin's like, great, hey, what do you think about this? I'll be like, well, I never really thought about that, let me think. And then we're like, next thing you know, we're like kind of like incorporating all our thought processes together, and next thing you know, we're like, Kevin's usually saying, you know what, we should probably teach a workshop on this. I'm like, hey, why not?
Why not?
He's the one who like tends to plan, like, hey, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, and I'm usually kind of like, hey, why not? Let's go with the flow, and that's why I think we have become such great friends over the years, and not just friends but colleagues, and it's been fun.
And that's the important thing, when you do have colleagues and you get together and you start talking about these things. And the reason why I love Chris is because even though I'm all about fun and I've got great,
pays him.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll pay you to be his friend.
Yes. I'm all about fun and I'm all about having a blast, but Chris adds a little bit of a crazy aspect to the things, which is just makes it so fun. And we didn't mention yet, and part of this part too is we do shows together. Chris has a background, he learned doing shows a long time ago, and I did several years ago. We decided, wouldn't it be fun to do shows together? And boy, was it a blast. So when you have this power of 2 or 3 or whatever, and the objective is to really just come out with something good. You don't have to have an objective to start a collaboration of a business or anything like that. The objective is to maybe learn something from each other. And that's
Definitely.
really what Chris and I have done.
Yeah.
We learned quite a bit, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we have we've had meetings together, we've taught workshops together, we've done stage hypnosis together. Do we work together all the time? No. Because I'm probably about 45 minutes down the road from where he lives.
Yeah.
And But
And I'm 45 minutes up the road from where he lives, by the way.
are you sure?
Yes.
But you know,
Right now, the audience is about to turn us off. Don't
like,
turn us
enough
off.
of this work.
We're going to have something valuable.
But really, you know, we when we do get together, it's really a collaboration, and there are times that it goes on and on.
Exactly. Exactly. On and on. It's just, it's that mind meld. It's that mind meld. And yes, we do live separately, so we don't see clients together. We see clients separately, but I can tell you there's been several times I've seen Chris do something, or he's told me something, and I've went and applied it with my clients.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think of, you know, allergies. Kevin has a whole allergy protocol, and I know I've told his wife this, but I don't think I've ever told him this. You know, don't want him to get, you know, too much of an ego or anything. But I always had allergies, and I remember he actually has the largest meetup group, and he can probably explain more about what a meetup is. He has the biggest meetup group in all of New England, specifically for hypnosis and NLP, and that's actually where we met. But I'm going to jump forward a little bit. He was doing one on specifically alleviating or eliminating allergy symptoms, and you know, he kind of was, you know, demoing it, and you know, I basically was kind of sitting there listening to the whole thing, and I noticed a difference with my allergies. So you know, I was like, and so you know, it actually worked for me.
You didn't tell me that.
No, I never told you. I told Brenda. I told his wife.
Yeah.
And but you know,
You just didn't want me to know how good I was.
well, you know, I don't want you to get like too much of a chip on your shoulder, you know. But I did tell his wife, and I said, and since then, I've actually taken his process, and I've kind of incorporated, you know, a few things that I like, and so that now I've actually worked with people with allergies, using the base of his program, and then kind of tweaking it to adding a few things that I like.
Yeah,
So
see, when you can collaborate at the level of really just sharing ideas, and that's where the power two comes in, and it gets even better because we'll be talking about it. By the way, just a little plug, if you're interested in allergies, this is being broadcast on Sunday, so you missed it. It was on Friday. However, you probably do have that ability to watch it, so you if that interests you, you can go look that up as well.
And I will say, definitely check it out, because like I said, it's helped me, and I know it's helped with a number of clients that he works with. So, you know, like, again, I don't want him to get too much of a chip on his shoulder, but it would behoove you, for all you, to go check it out, and you know, look it up on the NGH site, because I know they have it, and
Yes.
you know, incorporate it into the work that you do if that's what you want to do. But Kevin, we met at a meetup group, so maybe you could talk about a
Sure.
meetup group, what it is, and
Sure.
you know, how you got to be the person who has the largest hypnosis
Yeah.
NLP meetup group in all of New England.
And so, as you know, most of you probably do know what meetup group is. It is something that was originally made to get people together, get people locally together. That's what meetup was all about. So on any subject. So someone would go and be a meetup organizer. You go to meetup and you pay your fee, and then you start putting meetings together on anything. So I told you already, I got trained in NLP, and I was starting to learn a little bit more, and I wanted to learn more. So I found this meetup on NLP locally, and it was actually a little bit south of me. And I would go there, and the person who was running it, Adam Marks, is fantastic, and that's where Chris and I met.
Yes.
That's where Chris and I met. And so we'd sit there and we'd be learning the stuff together and probably discussing various things, and it was really cool. Adam actually moved out of the States, and since it's local, someone else had to take it over. I did, and I actually took over another one that was just hypnosis, and I merged the two together, and that's where that came out. By the way, for new hypnotists, even existing, even traveled hypnotists, it's fun. You can do this. You don't go in there to actually make a business out of it with Meetup. You go in there to connect with people, and from there you can network. But really, the synergy of actually getting people together, teaching them little techniques, and then getting them to try them, which is my favorite thing to do. So, yeah. So if you're interested, go look up Meetup. They were originally for local meetings. Is this a local meeting right now? No. We've had this thing called the pandemic that has caused a lot of us to have to meet, just about the whole world to have to meet this way virtually. So Meetup is now something that you can do virtually as well. So anyway, that was, those are the good old days. Remember learning things like spinning feelings and things like that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just when you have somebody, from a business point of view, a hypnotist is usually a solopreneur, right? Just about 90% of you out there, if not more, are solopreneurs. A solopreneur's biggest problem is they don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, right? Even if they had a small company with people working with them, for them, how's that? I don't know where my words are going.
I'm still stuck on solopreneur.
Oh,
I wouldn't even know how to spell that.
See, it's an entrepreneur where you take the entrep out and put solo in front.
Okay.
And even if you have a small organization with people working for you, you usually, you'd like someone at your level and someone who has your skills to be able to talk to. And that's why this collaboration and finding at least one or two other people where on a regular basis you can have that power of two. And then when you do get together, like we're going to show you in a little while, when you do get together, that's when it really is fun, isn't it?
It is. I think one of the biggest problems with, hypnotists getting together is, the whole underlying thing of, is this person's going to steal my clients or am I going to steal their clients? And there's that whole underlying part of that, which I think, is unfortunate.
And it really, Chris, is, I've talked about this and thought about this quite a bit. Competition in our field.
Yeah.
Right? Do you really think that it is so competitive that, there's not enough out there for everyone?
Well, certainly not enough hypnotists for everybody out there who, want to make changes and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the mindset people have, or hypnotists have, or, there might be like, kind of like maybe a jealousy or like, oh, well, this person's doing all this, I'm just working in this little area,
Yeah.
And I think people, I think they're afraid to kind of step out,
exactly.
And I think the nice thing about collaborating with people is you learn that, the other hypnotist is really not there to steal your clients, but you can actually bounce ideas off each other or refer people to each other. Okay, so for instance, if you, have, your schedule is booked, refer the person or, promote the other people. I know, like, when I've been online and I've mentioned, well, if you, live out in the Lowell, Massachusetts area, my friend Kevin is a wonderful hypnotist and, contact him, and because, you know, is the person, realistically, is the person going to travel from that area down to see me or over to see me, you know, when they could find somebody right there?
Yeah,
You know?
and even more so exponentially because Chris has some friends down in his area, and he has some friends in the NGH because you've been in there so long that I didn't know really well, and so I got introductions. I just learned about them, and there's probably a few people that probably wasn't even worthwhile you learning about, but you learned about them anyway. Uh, I think when it comes to competition, by the way, the biggest competition we have as hypnotists is the ignorance about hypnosis out there. If,
Or the most competition you have is with yourself,
yeah,
and how you
that's big.
feel like, you know, and afraid to meet other people, you know, and really your preconceived ideas, you know, like I said, you know, like, oh well, you know, this person might be like, oh, you view them as like so much better than you know, or you know, somebody who like maybe is newer in the field, you know, like,
Yep.
oh well, they're just kind of starting out, you know,
Right.
and you know, but really, you know, how they got into the whole field of hypnosis might be different than yours, and so, you know, they might have something to share that might get you to look at things a little differently. Like I said, with Kevin and I and his background in NLP, you know, it's interesting because he'll bring up like a certain topic or situation, you know, that somebody might want to change. And right away, my mind goes, oh, well, I would do this and then this. And then Kevin will talk about like, well, I would start with this. And I'm not thinking on the same wavelength as him. And that's because we're coming from two different directions.
Right.
But then after listening, I'm like, you know, and I might be listening and I'll be like, yeah, no, I wouldn't have started with that. But then hearing why he started with that specific, you know, tool or technique, I'd be like, oh, I like that,
And,
you know?
yeah,
And it's not like I'm stealing the idea from him, like, oh, you know, but I'm like, you know, oh, yeah, you know what? I think I might, I might use that first next time, you know, or I might do what I had planned and then put that in next, because that's a wonderful thing to work with the person to get them to change how they view their particular, you know, problem or situation.
And you know, one of the things we're trying to do, or at least we're hoping is, as we're talking about these different examples and stuff, it's going to start to turn things in your head, and maybe you'll start to think, wow, you know, I know this person, I know that person. Maybe, you know, maybe if we talk and stuff like that. It's another advantage that we have is that I've actually built courses and I've actually created protocols, and I go to Chris, and was actually in one of the courses I built just before COVID. And I say, Chris, when you want us to come in and sit down and let me know how it is, right? So he was there to give me the critique and help me make it such a better course, or help me with you know, the kinds of things that I'm planning on doing. And at the same time, I don't know if there's any value in there for you, but at the same time, you had the ability to learn some stuff I don't think you knew.
Yeah, or, you know, or see it a different way.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that Kevin specifically does, a technique, and you know, with eye tracking, and I won't go into a lot of detail about it because you know, he actually has that in another workshop. So
Another plug.
So,
Go look for it. NLP Techniques.
there we
Thank
go.
you.
It's listed there. And you know, it's interesting because it's actually, you know, there's a very popular technique. I won't you know, be negative. There's a very popular technique that's out there that Kevin actually has kind of taken that and kind of tweaked it and made it better. And you know, and I'm not going to name it by name because I don't want to put it down, but you know, that's the whole thing.
And you could give its initials. No.
We'll be politically correct here.
Yes, we will.
But I think that's, you know, one of the things that specifically collaborating, you know, that, you know, he could take his perspective, you know, with somebody who maybe likes that protocol, and, you know, it can be discussed, you know, the benefits and, you know, the benefits, the constraints of it, and, you know, both can work together, you know, and it's not like that one technique is better than the other technique, even though it might be. No, like I said, I don't want to like badmouth, but you know, you know, people who use this specific technique, you know, might say, oh, well, I already know this, and this one is similar but a lot different. Maybe I'll try this. And then they themselves can see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if, you know, if you and that other person never actually collaborated or discussed it,
Right.
you know, each one would basically be kind of doing their own little thing and not really kind of seeing the benefit of both.
Yeah. And by the way, there comes the other trust thing.
Uh-oh.
You know, besides competition, a lot of people are here, you know, at conferences like this, and they have their things to sell, right? So they have their books and their intellectual what property, isn't it? Yeah, that IP, and.
Intellectual properties. Yeah. I kind of like that. I just label it stuff.
Stuff. Yeah, that intellectual
but I kind of
stuff.
like that. I might have to like snag that in for,
yeah, there you
for
go.
dialogue now. Their IP.
Anyway, that's another thing people get a little wary of. And when you have colleagues that you can trust, right, you can show them, you can get feedback, you can build such a better thing, whatever you're working on, you know, the process or whatever it is. And that's this power two. And this power two goes way back, of course, because we've been told that two minds are better than one, right? We've been told that. And that's why we're really pushing this idea of basically, you should get another colleague or a couple of them to get together, find a chapter and get to know some people really well and do some things like that. Okay, in a moment, we're going to tell you really kind of the meat, maybe some of you already assumed was going to be there, is how two people can do hypnosis differently than that. We told you a lot about, you know, when these two people are together as hypnotists, the incredible advantages. By the way, one of the things we didn't talk about is, we talked about hypnosis and we did talk about NLP. If you're new to hypnosis, guess what? You're going to be learning other modalities along the way. You don't have to learn them to get out there and get a client. I don't want to stop you that, right? But you're going to learn other modalities to get out of the way. And what better way to learn other modalities? You don't have to go out and look where the classes are. You go to that person that you're collaborating with, and you say, "Hey, have you done this? Have you done Reiki?" Oh, he's Reiki guy. Oh, energy's coming from him. EFT.
EFT. I actually have not used EFT a lot. I've learned it, and it's one of those things that I should move from the back burner forward to really incorporate it more.
And you know, when Chris wants to learn a lot, you know where he can go? I'll tell you where you can go.
He's going to tell me where I can go, that's for sure.
Actually,
I'm afraid to hear this. Maybe we should turn the camera off.
I've done a lot of work, and I've actually taught it in workshops. But EFT, understanding it at a level of the way it's working and how it's working, and the nuances I get really good at. So when we get together again, we can,
Well,
and
we
I'm
will
sure
have to
you'll get
put
more
that on our
nuances.
calendar and-
This is it. This is how the Power of Two works.
And I did not know that with Kevin. I know we're talking about different modalities and things like that. I know Kevin is trained in Ho'oponopono. Now, it's taken me a number of years to be able to say that. Okay? Ho'oponopono. Okay? And what's interesting is just within this last year, he collaborated with somebody else.
Another hypnotist, by the way.
You know? And
yes.
they actually did a training on Ho'oponopono that's a little different than the traditional use of Ho'oponopono. And basically, it's been wonderful. I know I was not really kind of in depth, and sometimes I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But it's been amazing over this last year. We've had an online group, and it's just the amazing changes people have experienced in their lives, the people around them, and that was something that, you know, Kevin, he knew Ho'oponopono. It was trained in it by somebody who is very well known, and he has that knowledge base. And then he basically met this other hypnotist who just happens to be in the somewhat area around here, and they collaborated, and now they approach Ho'oponopono differently than what he originally learned. You know, and it's all about learning, being flexible, and actually kind of tweaking it and changing it to see what benefits. So that's a modality that I've always known that he's done, and he's mentioned it from time to time, even in workshops. He's mentioned it. He's also taught it. He's also brought people through the process of it, and now it seems to be a modality that is kind of in the forefront of what you're using with clients, and you've seen tremendous benefits.
Yeah,
so it's not always about hypnosis and NLP.
Right.
It's all the other things that you can learn to incorporate, overlap, insert here, and that's it, you know, the changes that we've seen with each other, and specifically Kevin with Ho'oponopono. But now that you've mentioned EFT and stuff, I'm going to hit him up.
Yeah, you're going to hit me up
to
on
really
that.
kind of get me going, using it more with my clients.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm interested to hear your little take on EFT and how you do it. So I'll be hitting him up later.
Thank you for bringing up Ho'oponopono. I wish I had a plug for it. No, I'm not teaching it here. But
maybe
that
next year he might
that
have a
was
workshop
a phenomenal example of another power of two. Peter, the person I'm working with, he had been trained in of this, specifically of this other part of.
Now, can you say his name? We'll give him a plug.
Sure, let's give him a plug.
You know, this is recorded. You know, people don't like it; they can edit it out.
Peter Gagliardo, who is also a member of NGH.
Yes, and he's in the Worcester, Massachusetts area.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in hooking up with him, you can get his contact information through NGH.
And he's a person.
Wonderful person.
He's a person that's got a lot to learn. Did you know he's trained in cognitive behavioral therapy?
Really? See, I never knew
Formally trained in that.
How I actually met him was a hypnotist work group that Kevin and I have talked about. You know, instead of bringing people together and working with clients and things like that, him and I have collaborated and talked about wouldn't it be cool to bring a bunch of hypnotists together and just work on stuff that we want to work on? And I said, yeah. I said, you know what? I said that would be really a cool thing to do. And so we've talked about it, and then he said, hey, I was talking to another hypnotist, again, the network guy, and he has an office down south of Boston, Massachusetts, and he's willing to let us use his office space. And so we all kind of he put the word out there, and we had a small group of hypnotists from all different areas. And Peter, who he just mentioned, was one of the people who showed up that day, and that's how I got to meet him. And did you know him before that? Or
Yes, I
maybe,
did.
oh, you did. Okay.
Yes, I did.
See, he doesn't tell me everything.
Anyway, we should have renamed this, being part of the hypnosis community, because really that's a lot what we're talking about, how valuable it is. And by the way, I think hypnotists are some of the greatest people in the world, because
They are.
we all get into this to help others. And when we're coming from that point of view, it's really good. It really is really wonderful. Okay, so in a moment we're going to start talking about actually doing hypnosis.